The cameras flashed, the storage lockers opened, the crowds watched, and then the screen went dark, leaving behind a handwritten note and a heartbreaking mystery.
It really is just a devastating end.
It is. Darrell Sheet's final note reveals a heartbreaking struggle. And today we are looking past the sensational headlines to figure out how a man known to millions as the Gambler was pushed into a corner he simply couldn't escape.
Right.
Welcome to StarScope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And this is definitely one of those stories that just, it stopped you in your tracks.
It totally does. And to really understand the mechanics of what happened here in today's deep dive, we've gathered a pretty compelling stack of sources. We are pulling from breaking celebrity news reports. We have the newly released police incident report out of Lake Havasu City, Arizona.
Which is incredibly detailed, by the way.
Yeah. Extremely. And to give us that crucial wider context, we're also looking at a really timely academic study published on the preprint server ART.
Right, because that study analyzes the psychology and the statistics of online harassment against public figures.
Exactly, because this tragedy isn't just a story about one man's breaking point. It's a stark indictment of an entire digital ecosystem.
I completely agree. And that's our mission today. We are going to unpack the tragic final days of reality TV star Darrell Sheets.
Yeah, and use that fascinating scientific study to understand the systemic, often totally invisible crisis of cyberbullying. We want to show you exactly how a digital comment can cross a screen and just mutate into a devastating physical reality.
Breaking down even the toughest public personas.
Right. But to truly grasp the weight of that breakdown, we have to start by looking at the armor he wore for so long. We have to look at the man himself.
So, for those who might not be familiar, Darrell Sheets was affectionately known to millions as the Gambler.
The Gambler, yeah.
Right? For 13 years, spanning, I think it was 163 episodes of the A&E hit series Storage Wars, he was an absolute staple of reality television.
Oh, he had this massive, just larger-than-life presence on screen. He was famous for a completely fearless bidding style.
And his risks paid off.
Yeah.
He made some of the most legendary, jaw-dropping finds in the history of the show.
Like the Picasso sketches, right?
Nice. 4 original Pablo Picasso sketches. And, a letter written by Abraham Lincoln that reportedly sold for over $15,000.
That is just wild.
He built an entire career, a whole brand, on taking calculated risks, trusting his gut, and frankly, having incredibly thick skin.
Mm-hmm.
He thrived in this highly competitive, cutthroat environment.
Where intimidation was just part of the daily business, which is exactly what makes the end of his story so jarring to process.
It really is.
In 2023, Darrell retired due to some health complications. He stepped away from the glare of the cameras, settled down in Lake Havasu City, Arizona, and opened up a local antique shop.
I think it's called Havasu Show Me Your Junk.
Yeah, that's the one. And from the outside, it seemed like this peaceful, well-earned next chapter. But then we get to the timeline of April 22nd.
Right. The Lake Havasu City Police Department responded to an emergency call at his residence at approximately 2 a.m.
At 67 years old, Darrell had passed away from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And when you read his girlfriend's account from the police report...
That's just so heavy.
It is. Detailing that final night, the sheer exhaustion he was facing becomes glaringly apparent. She testified that he had been suffering from severe stress-induced insomnia for months.
Right, he just couldn't sleep.
That night, he couldn't sleep at all. He got out of bed, and a short time later, she found him standing in the doorway of his office. He simply told her to go back to sleep.
And mere moments later, she heard the gunshot.
Yeah. It's a sudden, quiet end to a life that had been lived so loudly and so publicly for over a decade.
Okay, let's unpack this. How does someone who built a literal career on being incredibly tough get pushed over the edge in the quiet of his retirement?
That's the big question. Like, someone who thrived in high-pressure, televised confrontations with aggressive competitors, what is the mechanism that breaks that kind of long-standing armor?
Well, to answer that, we have to look closely at the physical evidence the investigators found at the scene. Darrell didn't just leave without an explanation.
Right, the note.
Detectives discovered a short, physically shaky handwritten note. It was found inside a black basket in a bathroom closet, resting on top of a stack of old documents.
And the detail that stands out to me, it wasn't meticulously planned on a fresh piece of stationery. It was scribbled on the back of old paperwork dated February 20th, 2026.
It speaks to this desperate, spur-of-the-moment urgency. like a dam finally bursting.
Exactly. And the contents of the note, they're brief, but they completely reframe the context of his passing.
I am quoting the police report directly here.
Yeah.
He wrote, "I could not take any more of the Facebook bullying FU," and then a redacted name.
Spelled exactly like that, just raw and unfiltered. It's a direct, undeniable line drawn between an unregulated social media platform and his death.
Precisely. But it is vital to understand that it wasn't just the online world closing in on him. What's fascinating here is how a convergence of intense, private family drama and relentless public harassment creates an inescapable psychological pressure cooker.
Oh, absolutely. And before we get into the details of that stalker, I want to quickly say, if you're loving these Hollywood twists and true pop culture deep dives, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead.
You definitely don't want to miss them.
So getting back to the incident report, it outlines that in his final days, his personal life, his safe haven, was fracturing. The tragedy here is that the family drama was essentially the kindling.
Yeah, the girlfriend mentioned to investigators that Darrell's son, Brandon, who fans will remember actually co-starred on the show with him, had come to visit.
But that visit deteriorated into a heated argument over family drama.
And that tension didn't dissipate, it escalated. The very night before Darrell died, his girlfriend reported that he received deeply upsetting text messages from Brandon's wife.
Accusing him of stealing money, right?
Yes, exactly. These messages apparently accused Darrell of stealing money. The girlfriend noted to police that this left him feeling incredibly sad and defeated.
So you have a man who is being attacked on two completely different fronts. His inner circle is in turmoil, providing no safe harbor, and the outside world is relentlessly pounding on his door.
It's just too much all at once.
And we have to view this through the lens of his pre-existing battles, you know. Back in 2018, Darrell was actually very open about his mental health.
He was. He made a public confession about battling clinical depression to try and raise awareness.
Yeah, he warned people, saying depression steals our smiles, ruins relationships, and sometimes leads to suicide. He explicitly noted that those with depression must fight a 24-hour battle.
That is the crucial context right there. When you take a mind that is already fighting a grueling, exhausting 24-hour battle just to maintain baseline functionality, you add incredibly painful family accusations, and then you pour on a highly targeted, inescapable cyberbullying campaign.
The pressure simply becomes catastrophic.
The human nervous system is not designed to sustain that level of constant threat.
No, it's not. The match that lit that fire was coming from complete strangers online. And that's not even the wildest part. Because wait until we get to who is actually behind this. Let's delve into the mechanics of that cyberbullying campaign.
Because this wasn't just random people leaving mean comments on your YouTube video. This was highly systematic.
It was essentially digital stalking, identity theft, and extortion, all rolled into one relentless campaign.
In the weeks leading up to his death, Darrell was being targeted by an individual who essentially stole his identity online.
Yeah, they created spoofed accounts with names like Darrell the Clown Sheets. And they were spreading horrific, malicious rumors to his community.
Falsely claiming he was gay, or that he was involved in illicit activities with a local children's arcade owner.
Just completely vile stuff.
And this illustrates exactly how anonymity emboldens an attacker. When a stalker operates behind a fake avatar, they are stripped of social consequences.
They don't have to look their victim in the eye.
Exactly, which completely bypasses the human empathy reflex. It turns destroying someone's life into a twisted, consequence-free video game. But it didn't stay on the screen.
Right. According to Darrell's own desperate Facebook post from March 11th, this stalker was going around Lake Havasu City pretending to be a handyman under Darrell's name.
And actually extorting money from local small businesses.
The internet didn't just act as a megaphone here, it acted as a GPS, guiding online rage directly to the front door of his antique shop.
It's terrifying.
Darrell wrote in that post, "People are showing up to my work and wanting to harm me." Angry people who had been scammed were coming to his physical storefront.
Just imagine that anxiety.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. I know what you, the listener, might be thinking because it's the most common reflex we all have to cyberbullying.
Why couldn't he just turn off his phone?
Exactly. Why not just delete the Facebook app, unplug the router, and walk away?
It's the standard advice, right? Just log off. But you have to remember the economic reality of the situation. For a public figure, and especially for a local business owner like Darrell running a retail antique shop, disconnecting entirely equals professional suicide.
Yeah, you rely on social media to drive foot traffic.
To connect with fans who might want to buy something? To market your newly acquired inventory? The internet is where your livelihood exists.
You can't just delete your storefront. You can't board up the windows and expect to survive. And even if you do turn off your phone, the rumors don't stop. The extortion doesn't stop.
The people showing up at your physical store angry because they've been scammed by someone using your name, they don't vanish into thin air just because you logged out of an app.
Exactly. The damage continues autonomously. In that same post, Darrell expressed immense frustration that local law enforcement's hands were tied.
He said they knew about it, but couldn't stop it because Facebook allows this. And the police report actually details their attempt to track down the suspect Darrell pointed to. It just showcases the toxic vortex of these situations.
Right. The report says they contacted the suspect, and the guy was described as extremely uncooperative.
And didn't he claim he wasn't even in the state?
Yeah. He claimed he was nowhere near Arizona in the days leading up to the death, and get this, he claimed he was receiving death threats himself.
It's a chaotic web where the truth is entirely obscured by digital noise.
It's a complete mess. Which is a good time to mention, stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because we are about to look at the underlying science of how this ecosystem operates.
Because Darrell's story, as shocking and tragic as it is not an isolated anomaly. It is deeply symptomatic of a much larger crisis.
And this is where the academic study comes in. We looked at an incredibly timely study published on the preprint server Arnorgesvef. It was conducted by researchers analyzing the online harassment of celebrities and influencers.
Now, the survey specifically looked at 213 famous people in Japan. But researchers go out of their way to note that the toxic culture of image boards and social media harassment shares deep behavioral roots globally,
making the psychological mechanics universally applicable.
We should quickly clarify what we mean by image boards for those unfamiliar. Essentially, these are anonymous online forums where users post pictures and text.
Like 4chan or things like that, right?
Exactly. Because there are no real names attached, no accountability, they are notorious for breeding intense mob mentality. They operate as echo chambers that turn targeted harassment into a collaborative sport.
It's the absolute Wild West, and the numbers the researchers found regarding the harassment coming from these spaces are staggering.
They broke harassment down into two categories, direct and indirect. 43% of the public figures surveyed faced direct public attacks.
But 49%, nearly half, face indirect harassment.
And indirect harassment is arguably more insidious. This involves spreading disinformation, sharing sordid, completely fabricated gossip, orchestrating fake reviews, or uploading photoshopped images and deepfakes.
It's like a digital whisper campaign where the crowd is completely invisible to you, but the damage to your reputation is entirely public. You can't fight an enemy you can't even see.
You are just watching your life burn down from the inside. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the study confirms the exact mechanism of what Darrell experienced with people showing up at his store.
Which was so scary.
The researchers found that victims of online harassment are 3.1 times more likely to experience offline stalking.
3.1 times. That is a massive, terrifying correlation.
It completely shatters the antiquated myth that it's just the internet. The study proves the digital world directly endangers physical safety.
So how does that pipeline actually work?
Well, an attacker starts with anonymous commenting. When they realize their comments are causing the victim distress, it generates a twisted sense of power. The anonymity emboldens them. Eventually, the virtual space isn't enough.
They want to see it in real life.
Exactly. They want to exert that power in the physical world to see a real-time, visceral reaction. The virtual harassment acts as a stepping stone, pushing individuals prone to obsession across the physical threshold.
Think about that from the victim's perspective. Think about how easy it is to make a burner email address. It takes 2 minutes.
Yeah. Now imagine trying to live your life while trying to stop someone who has all day, every day, to make 100 burner emails just to systematically dismantle your reputation.
The emotional toll is devastating. The study found that because of online harassment, 53% of victims avoided using the internet entirely, 51% reported having sinking depressive feelings for days on end, and 33% wanted to just leave their jobs and disappear.
Over a quarter reported intense mental injury, experiencing suicidal ideation or turning to substance abuse. Which begs the question, these are famous people. They have money, they have platforms, they have millions of followers.
Right, why not fight back?
Yeah, why do they suffer in silence? Why don't they mobilize their resources?
It comes down to a societal victim-blaming mechanism that researchers call the price of fame mentality. Bystanders, law enforcement, and sometimes even the victims themselves internalize this idea that because celebrities are socially and economically elevated, they are somehow invulnerable.
The public assumes that getting death threats, being stalked, or having your identity stolen is just the necessary tax you pay for being rich and famous.
It's like society thinks that once your net worth hits a certain number, your nervous system just magically turns off. It is such a warped way of looking at human beings.
It really is. And because of this intense stigma, victims fear that speaking out will only attract more victim blaming. A famous victim targeted by a digital mob often feels like if they complain, the public will just roll their eyes and say, "Stop whining, you asked for this when you went on television."
So they don't go to the police, they don't talk about it publicly, they internalize the terror.
Exactly.
But later in the deep dive, we'll talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming regarding the tech platforms themselves. The Facebooks, the X's, the Instagrams, they always tout their safety tools, you know. They have mute buttons, block features, algorithmic safety filters.
The study actually proves those platform tools completely fail the victims. They offer a false sense of security designed for public relations, not actual protection.
Really? How so?
For example, linguistic AI filters fail because dedicated attackers don't just type out obvious threats. They use cloaked language.
Can you explain how that works in practice?
Certainly. Instead of using a banned word like kill, an attacker might use a specific combination of emojis or deliberate phonetic typos. The AI filter scans it, reads it as a harmless typo or a string of smiley faces, and lets it through.
Oh, but the human brain of the victim instantly recognizes the context and the threat.
Exactly. The algorithm sees nonsense, the victim sees a death threat, and blocking. It's practically useless against a dedicated stalker. If you block them, they just create a new account 5 minutes later.
Right.
These tools are designed to manage casual, everyday friction between normal users, not to stop targeted, obsessive, sophisticated harassment campaigns.
So what does this all mean? If the tech companies are failing with their current tools and the police have their hands tied because the platforms allow it, what actual functional solutions exist? We can't just accept this as the status quo where people are driven to the edge.
The researchers in the ARC-5 study actually proposed several concrete, structural solutions based on their findings. First, they suggest platforms need to introduce reconsideration prompts, especially for private direct messages.
Like a pop-up that acts as a speed bump, like, hey, this message looks highly aggressive. Are you sure you want to send this?
Exactly. It forces a moment of psychological friction. It creates a pause for the sender to reconsider their behavior before they cross a line.
That makes a lot of sense.
It seems overly simple, but data shows that introducing friction can significantly deter impulsive, emotionally driven harassment. Second, and this is quite a progressive approach, the study suggests offering platform-integrated mental health support for the offenders.
Wait, hold on. I have to stop you there. You're saying we should offer mental health support to the offenders, to the trolls.
Yes, to the attackers.
That sounds like a wild paradigm shift. How does that not just reward the abusers who are actively destroying someone else's life? Why do they get free therapy?
It is a controversial idea, absolutely. But the rationale is based on treating the root cause, rather than just playing an endless game of whack-a-mole with fake accounts.
Okay, I'm listening.
The data shows that individuals who engage in relentless, obsessive cyberbullying and stalking often suffer from severe, untreated psychiatric disorders themselves. Merely banning their IP address doesn't cure their obsession, it just makes them angry, forcing them to find another, potentially more dangerous way to act out.
Ah, I see.
By intercepting their behavior on the platform and funneling them towards psychological intervention, you actually have a chance to stop the behavior at its source, which ultimately protects the victim better than a simple ban.
Okay, looking at it as a preventative security measure rather than a reward makes much more sense. It's about disarming the threat, not comforting the troll.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And finally, the study stresses the desperate need for clear, modernized legal guidelines. Right now, the law is incredibly murky regarding digital harassment.
Yeah.
Victims and local police departments need to know exactly when a troll crosses the line from protected free speech into criminal extortion, defamation, or stalking. So law enforcement's hands are no longer tied by outdated statutes.
Which is so needed.
And this raises an important question about the very architecture of social media itself. Are these platforms inherently designed to reward and amplify conflict?
Probably, yeah.
We've built a global ecosystem where engagement is the ultimate currency, and nothing drives engagement quite like outrage, controversy, and mob mentality. The tragedy of Darrell Sheets wasn't just a failure of one uncooperative stalker.
It was a catastrophic failure of the digital environment that permitted the stalker to operate with total impunity.
Exactly. The system functioned exactly as it was designed to, prioritizing open connection, anonymity, and viral spread over psychological and physical safety of the individual user.
To bring this all together, the loss of Darrell the Gambler Sheets is a devastating reminder that behind the larger-than-life, incredibly tough reality TV personas are real, fragile human beings.
With real breaking points.
His tragic passing was a result of personal vulnerability, a long, exhausting battle with clinical depression and sudden family turmoil, violently colliding with an unregulated, toxic digital ecosystem that entirely failed to protect him.
He was fighting a 24-hour battle in his own mind, and social media ensured that his attackers could wage war on him 24 hours a day, buzzing right there in his pocket.
And this is where we have to turn the mirror on ourselves. Because you, the listener, as a consumer of pop culture, as someone who reads the comments on viral posts, who shares the memes, and who participates in online forums, you are part of this ecosystem.
We all are.
The line between a digital comment typed in passing and a devastating physical reality is practically non-existent. The digital whisper campaign has real-world casualties.
It fundamentally changes how we need to think about every digital interaction we have.
It does. And I want to leave you with one final fascinating detail from that academic study. In looking for solutions to this crisis, the researchers proposed a concept that sounds almost entirely dystopian, but might be our future: cyberbullying insurance for public figures.
It's wild to even think about. The idea is that creators, local business owners, and celebrities would purchase a literal insurance policy that funds the endless legal battles, the private investigators to track down anonymous IPs, and the intensive mental health care required simply to survive being targeted by online trolls.
Which is just staggering. I want you to mull that over today. If we have reached a point in society where human beings need to purchase literal insurance policies just to safely exist on the internet, what does that say about the future of human connection? We really need to look at what we're building online before anyone else gets pushed into a corner they can't escape.
We really do.
You've been listening to StarScope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.